It's Tuesday. It's April 25th, 2023. Um, I'm watching the television. I finished the St. Patrick's Day parade. I had it on tape, but just like when you eat a cake, you can't eat it all at one sitting. Oh, it is just how I feel about that Irish parade. But I keep going back for lessons to learn and appreciation of all of the people who put the time and effort in for that pomp and circumstance or that period piece of absolute importance. Um, so, on this journey to what have I been through in my private life, which I would have liked to have stayed private, except I'm having issues with now in in communications and in um, field study, like we learn English as a theory. Like English is an art, but then we learn these protected theorems here in the socially accepted um, public arena or private institution of colleges or whatever. That's the educational institutional ring of whatever the driving force is here, which the only general I've ever heard of, the only one, only, I mean, again, only one I've ever had or held in my hand is General George Washington. I don't know of any other generals. Not by name. I wouldn't know how to search them. The only one ever taught at my level of theory in the field was that there was a General George Washington, and he was the first president. And then that's covered by the Betsy Ross and the flag. And then there's this other stuff that I just learned in this one particular book. One of them is, for some reason, um, this has a red stiletto on its flag, one, which I refer to as the Red Cross in my protected private life. Um, there's this page in here which they reference by the 3 and the 8, which at Brady Bunch is for certain a really important numerical value. And it says Marx meets Engels. Um, went to a very specific birthday where the man I had just met, who had a black cross on the nook of his hand that I refer to as the blacksmith, um, took me to this, for my birthday, this open rooftop. I put a Facebook photo up. We were somewhere in Manhattan. Don't ask me where. I have no idea. I know nothing about Manhattan. But we were at a rooftop bar. I was wearing two red stilettos, and I met with two random patrons of the rooftop that evening. I had a fedora on, um, and um, I asked for a cup of tea from one of them. And then we had a conversation. I would have much rather have spent time staying and speaking to the two of them than with going with the man with the stiletto and the Mark Ingalls. because that was his name. The other guy that the black stiletto brought to the meeting where I was, we were going to some Gotham comedy show. Now, what's interesting in this as well is Engels is an Air Force term, and as is Red Baron, so I'm told, or I've discovered along my more recent having to figure out why things keep going wrong for me here. Um, and so I'm reading this theorem in this copyright of this book of what they're pronouncing for this one particular publication, um, which speaks on industrial capitalism. And it goes through all of this other stuff. Um, it also mentions the French and the bourgeoisie. Um, but I really did go and really did run in with two red stilettos, the female kind, to these two individuals, just random for me. I don't know if it was on their schedule, if they knew ahead of time that I would be there. I don't really know how the world, news, media, and the room runs operations, but hell if I know. Um, so that happened. But just like that meeting happened, and they saw me in those in much better shape, might I add. Um, the time spent with this black stiletto through this blacksmith has really taken a toll on my life, for the worse. I am not better for it. And I'm whatever. I needed to get away from this crazy donkey meeting that they first sent me into, but instead they sent me even further down the rabbit hole to this black stiletto and this blacksmith operation that I didn't sign up for. I didn't even volunteer for it. But here we are at like supermarket cleanup in aisle 7. Um, I also had a meeting in these with Thomas Jefferson, just so a pair of black stilettos is aware that that meeting actually happened in my private life. Um, so there's that. Um, when I mention IR and Tracy, it's usually with this. I didn't read this book. I haven't read Tracy's book. It's on my to-do list, but the painting and the fact that they used a Tracy, not Chevalet, again. This is not the version of French that I learned. I didn't learn this up to this sophistication. I learned some verbs of importance while spending time in George Washington's area or territory, where he's the only general I've ever known. Um, and so, um, and again, that speaks to the difference in the college setting, at institutionally um, paired, for however that works. I have made discovery at that meeting with that Mark Engels. It was just a further continuance of whatever I learned at John's, who was studying Vincent's on a crescent moon in Astoria when I arrived to that fairy war, in theory. Um, and so it's been very confusing on the news media. Mostly the anger they've taught was coming from some movement of African or African Caribbean. I had no idea. And then in a different time frame, the Afro Asian community made themselves aware to me again, but that, I mean, like, these are like political territories of like, I don't even know in one lifetime if there's enough time to learn for myself and then protect my children. And we, again, I'm RH sensitive in this. So, like, there's this other sense, and I'm also the clock. I'm a rational, not just in, I mean, I'm protected by the theory of clock systems, but I'm the rational clock in a theorem that is taught at specific college, specific university level. It's not taught to just everybody, which is a protection on a whole nother scale, of protected speech and protected theorems, and whichever else that goes in some form of self-defense mechanism that I don't even know how to defend myself at this point, other than speaking in theory and commenting on the newsroom as they keep throwing, and it's just like they keep piling more and more stuff on. And I haven't met enough humans in like regular operations in order to function and have a quality of life here, or even have an active hand in however they've built this society, whatever their expectations are. I have no idea. They've never made their expectations aware to me of however they judge one another, however they opinion one another. I have no idea. Um so there's that. Um and again, at seeking out higher level education, the I went with the 6 with germ theory on what I learned between the biologicals here on this planet. Um, so I'm watching as this irrational set of clocks just keeps like bulldozing through, and my quality of life keeps diminishing, and I have no like access to anything that I would actually like to do. Um, and I'm watching what the newsroom is throwing out there. Now, on Channel 7 yesterday, Keyshawn Sewell, who's NYPD's commissioner, just graduated a class from over 30 different nations. So now and it's their armed forces from 30 different nations. I'm like, their armed forces, I mean, like, yeah, they're trained, but like, that's now how many generals are they potentially, in theory? I mean, because then that goes into strategy and what are they doing in, I've got I've got skin in that particular theory and game. So now that's a problem for me for protecting and holding my own. Um, I was watching the end of the Irish Gaelic parade. I was realizing that they have their own language, they have their own textbook. I have no idea where to, like, it's never even been offered to me. And I'm like, again, somebody insisted that blacksmith like come into one of my calendar events. So, and then followed me around like toilet paper on my shoe after exiting a public restroom. I not sure who was behind that or why. And then there's this new media circus that's blowing up because it, for me, it looks like it's based off of a political prisoner system, which I don't know what their driving force is and why I'm the one who's being persecuted and punished That I'm definitely not clear on. I'm I don't have a clear vision in sight. Um but I'm watching this, and then CBS this morning put out the Little League, and there's a bunch of umpires that are volunteer, um, and they're apparently getting yelled at, and so they're trying to come up with this system, and I'm watching that with a very keen ear. Disney came out this morning with they're doing something with Peter Pan, where they're doing like a remake of it with Jude Law and then Jim Gaffigan. And I'm like, no, that's interesting. Um, so that happened, but I saw that on GMA and I didn't have that tape running. So I missed it as a reference. Um, but I'm going to put up here this Channel 7 ABC um, newsworthy, since I have headliners that were put into my quantum entanglement in this area of New York on some schedule that some market maker knows, but I have no access to. And my life seems to be getting worse every decade that goes further. And I don't know why this keeps perpetuating and keeps heading in this direction.
A new class of NYPD officers has graduated. Officers passed 6 months of intense training. The group includes more than 50 people who've previously served in the armed forces.
Armed forces is what I just heard. And then as I play it, she mentions that there's, well, just.
Graduates are a diverse group with members that speak 28 different languages and come from 33 different countries.
I ask you.
So, okay, so not nations, but countries. So 33 different countries have sent their armed forces into New York, and New York has absorbed them into their NYPD management system. I don't even have a list of who they hired, what pools of people. As a private citizen, I don't have, but following some George Washington as the one and only general in the historical books and reference, so we have one level theory, so everybody knows who the number one person at all times is.
To join us in transforming the way we police the city. Precinct by precinct, neighborhood by neighborhood, transit district by PSA. Please engage the communities we serve, and let's step forward to build a safer city.
Family and friends gathered at Madison Square Garden's Hulu Theater this morning to see the ceremony.
Starting the weather right now, and
What I don't understand is, where is that level of announcement made? I mean, where is community involvement? Like, we're thinking of hiring 33 different countries, armed men trained somewhere else to now come here and serve inside New York City. Where is the residential national security protection? Where is my national security protection? Where is my father figure, big brother? Where is my communication specialist? Because this television, like the after the facts already happened, after they planned for this invasion, because that's what it looks like from my point of view at like the Little League. But I have the time on the clock. I'm the reincarnate. There is priority and precedence there. And yet I'm not even in communication with anything in planning before it happens. So that's a whole nother set of actual circumstances, which should be covered by theory, which, again, battles are won wherever they're won. The more educated in that industrial and college would know the ending to that answer. Now, CBS Mornings, the episode E82, which aired Tuesday, April 25th, 2023, same day that I'm making this, had this on, which is where I feel I am at the moment. Here we are.
Welcome back to CBS Mornings. It is time to bring you some of the stories that are the talk of the table this morning. Gail, you will start
Okay,
this
I'm
off.
in pole position. So
Okay.
my talk of the table is about a new rule that's in Little League in Southern New Jersey. Why? Because they're trying to stop parents from abusing umpires. And parents, you know who you are. The president of the Deptford Township Little League, Don Buzzuffy. Buzzuffy is his name. He says they have trouble recruiting and keeping volunteer umpires. Why? Because parents who yell at them when they don't like a call.
If they just said, "Oh man," or something like that, we wouldn't mind. But they're screaming at the umpires. They're abusing them, calling them names, telling them they stink in so many words. And we're volunteers. We're going out there doing our best to umpire. We all stink, but we're doing the best that we can.
I like that, Don Buzzuffy. So here's a new rule. Anyone who abuses an ump during a game will have to volunteer as an umpire for 3 games before you're allowed to come back in as a spectator. The league says it hopes that this will show people how hard the job is to stop the abusive behavior. Don't you like that too? Because originally he had the option that you could be banned from the games for a year, according to town rules, but he didn't want to do that. He wants people to see how hard this is, and hopefully it will improve their behavior. He said, because once somebody starts yelling, it's contagious, and then everybody chimes in ways that are unkind. And another thing I heard him say is, these are not baseball players, guys. These are kids.
Right, yeah.
So we're all just trying to do well by the kids.
Yeah.
I like him very much.
No one's gambling on these games. So
Exactly.
They anyway,
Right.
my first paid job, other than mowing a lawn for a
Congrats.
neighbor, was working as an umpire. And it is.
Is it hard, Tony?
It is
a hard
very
job?
hard.
Those parents are brutal.
Because it goes back
Yes.
to these are not professional baseball players.
Yes.
I mean, you've got to expand the zone a little bit every now and then just to move the game along, right? Otherwise, we'll be here to the sunset.
Every parent thinks their kid is going to be a professional baseball. It's like, take it easy.
Yeah, just
Let little Timmy have a good time
we're trying to
today.
get everyone home safe for dinner, okay?
So
Okay,
go
That is
Don
strike 3. Let's take a
Buzzuffy.
seat.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. My talk on the table.
Now, here's part of the replay from the St. Patrick's Day parade. I'm going to highlight 2 things. One is there is a specific shade of blue that I used to have a jacket. The zipper broke, though, that I used to wear. And I see it flashed in this parade. But I'm going to start with, it says TV on it, but then I realized it's actually VT. Depends on how you read it. On the big drum that they're hitting, it's Virginia Tech. And I'm like, they have the most, and again, I don't have words for it. It's not a uniform. I mean, it's a uniform in like an umbrella kind of a way. They're in uniform formation, but it's not what I would call a valise. It's more of regalia. It's more of like a more noble, again, I don't even want to say beauty pageant, because I know in New York, Trump did something with Miss Universe and paraded around all the gems and jewels of everybody's home network. So I don't want to even, again, as a respectful person, I mean, I'm careful with, I don't want to make him look bad, but he did it. And then I don't want to, again, upset the other more rigid and respected boardroom father. Like, I mean, again, it's like this really careful. I see that they're tearing in a Tucker Carlson. They threw a lemon out. I mean, it's at the big shakeup at the cable news stations. I'm just like, Whoa. So here we are.
We do.
We do.
We do.
We certainly do.
And we got a lot of Martian Stilettos out.
Virginia Tech. What a band this is.
How's he trying?
Oh my lord. This is a sight to see, folks. I've seen them at the football games, and I'll tell you one thing. It's unbelievable. Let's hear them. The rambling ranks, is that what they are?
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think so. I'll tell you one thing, there's no rambling with those guys and girls. They are straight and true. Mind you, those lines are perfect. We're looking behind them now and you can see them. You can draw a ruler on those lines. Unbelievable.
I watch it and I'm like a proud parent for their parents. I'm just like, my God, I wouldn't even know how to get my children into dressing that beautiful and being part of this beautiful community or network at Virginia Tech. Like, I didn't even know they existed until I saw this parade. And now it's like so late in their season and mine. I'm like, what's really the point? But other than using it as a reference point with whatever's going on in stilettos I've worn and my life getting worse. And it's just like, it's this perpetual, again, I don't, where, if you shut the trap, like I've heard people say, just shut your trap. Never to my real face. But I know people say that kind of stuff somewhere. I've seen it somewhere referenced. And I'm like, right, if you shut the trap, then why are there 33? And do they have a list of what countries they're pulling from? And how did that get built? And what does that mean for dwindling numbers somewhere else when I don't have the exact ratio being reported to me? And I just have frightening other things going on. They also put up this really wonderful piece, which I think on CBS this morning or CBS this morning, on Channel 2, they from Studio 46. They put up this piece on autism. I am so proud of that piece. I don't have a working, functioning memory like that amazing person that they put up there. I know in certain spectrum of autism, they have a photographic memory. They are able to recall things back like really fast. They get all of their, whatever you put in, they're able to spit back out, and it's always the same. It's consistent. And they're like, I know there's a level of humanity that exists at puzzle pieces that are really, really crucial and important in this area for intelligence. But where I'm missing is having the same, like, while I function like a biologic, there are times where, because of whatever's going on with me with clocks, it's, I call it like, it's almost like interdimensional dementia. It's like if I'm in this dimension, because there's other properties of how the earth works that's not spoken about. It's in a different science class protected by I don't know what, in a different theory. So there's that going on. So I'm going to pause this and I'm going to look up the other set of colors that we're walking down in this Irish parade, because I know that there's importance in all of this.
There, and there's an amazing...
Now, they mentioned something about a Good Friday something or other. I heard what they said logically. And again, I don't know if that's a railroad track, like Good Friday Treaty. I'm not quite sure for this particular under one general marching down an area that has this one general in the general public school that is taught consistently as the first president of the United States of America, um, for one anchor of reality that we all center around. Um,
About it, Big Kavanaugh always gets so many people out onto it. Another big Smith fella coming along here as well. Yes. Same to you.
And Pat Rodden has taken over. Excuse me, darling. Pat Rodden has taken over from Jimmy McGeer.
And then it says United Nations Veterans Post 15 CAVAN Ireland. Again, I'm not, I don't know that area, but they're all marching in this New York parade on St. Patrick's Day, which is the appreciation from, I mean, again, just from an armchair couch potato perspective, without knowing any of them and without them explaining who they are and what they're all about, it looks like this is that country, that nation, I don't really know, of ancestors, which I have roots from that came here, but they have not made themselves known to me in any way other than a person who wears a black stiletto on his hand, but he has like a two nation affiliation. And so I'm just looking for clues for like, where was the big brother that was going to protect me? And like, I would have been in civics and civil service if I had known that this was like a requirement to find the level of human that I need. But I was growing up Glen and there was no speak of this.
Yeah, this year.
Yeah, he's the man who's going to keep them solid at the back. Jimmy had that job for about 30 years. I saw PJ and Kit Smith there as well. So they're well supported. The Cavan folks get out in style, and they look well. They're having the 175th dinner dance when it's coming up very shortly in March 25th at 7 p.m. at Leonard's, and they will have Tony Clark as the Distinguished Service Award, and the
Now I hear that they have something called yeah, at this point, I don't know what else to say or what else to do. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. And again, that's another theorem because I don't really know when black stiletto on the hands shows up and I'm after a crazy donkey situation in a blacksmith. I mean, is this the same political circus? Is this the same just for taking a political prisoner? I mean, like, is that how you explain it? So then where do you go? I mean, was it an elephant responsible? Was it a donkey that was responsible? Because the meeting place that they sent me was something called a Janus, was inside, and this is all taking place inside New York City. And if there's this much trouble, who am I to rely on locally for help? Ever. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza, Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken.